From the moment of inception of a game idea up until the day of release, games are in a constant state of development. But over the years on the internet, there's been a term during this development that's acted as a buzzword: beta. It refers to a version of a game where it's maybe roughly halfway complete, with some ideas being subject to change. But if you look on YouTube for anything relating to a game beta, you may end up coming across a world that is both creative and partially absurd. What does this mean? Well, to start, if you were on YouTube years ago, you might have come across a video I made from 2013 about the beta version of Luigi's Mansion. Over the years, that grew to be my most popular video to date. But why? In the video, I cover the differences between a build of the game from roughly under a year before its release, compared to the final version that we would receive. Though to be fair, that video was rather inaccurate, touting baseless fan theories and miscommunications as fact, as well as randomly throwing in some elements from the even earlier alpha version. Despite these shortcomings, so many people were interested in the overall topic of that video. In fact, mine wouldn't be the only one that garnered a lot of attention. That same year, YouTuber Beta64 would also make a video about the Luigi's Mansion beta version. Not only that, but there would be a second revisited video with more information regarding that build of the game, with both videos accumulating a combined total of over 4 million views. So clearly, something about this unfinished make of Luigi's Mansion grabbed people's attention. To find out what that may be, let's do a quick revisit of this version for the first time in over 11 years. If by now you don't already know the story, Luigi wins a mansion from a contest he didn't enter, responding to what would end up being a scam letter by going to the mansion to check it out for himself. He had called Mario to come check it out with him, though when he arrived, Mario was nowhere to be found, and as it turns out, the mansion is haunted. Now the objective is to find Mario and get the hell out of Dodge. This idea would remain consistent all throughout development. Now with the main story out of the way, let's get into the differences between versions. The music that played in the beta version would be one of the first major changes that one could notice. The main theme would utilize more synthesizers and electronic samples, compared to the more realistic instrument sound they would later opt for. Many different changes would be present in the beta, including room layouts, HUD elements like a ghost's HP meter, different ghost designs, and portraits on the walls. Some of these unused assets would oddly enough be present in the Luigi's Mansion microgame for the Nintendo Switch title WarioWare Get It Together. But without getting too off topic, these things and more would all be refined and swapped out in the final version of Luigi's Mansion on GameCube for either more realism, or at least a little less like Ghostbusters, even if that's where they may have got the idea of the game from. This beta build that was shown off at E3 2001 was pretty much a tech demo. You could try it out yourself at the event, but aside from showing you what the idea of the game is, there wouldn't really be an ending. You'd have a set time limit to play, that way the line of people waiting to try it themselves wouldn't be held up for too long.
Will you hurry up?
But with no proper ending and only so many rooms you could enter, what would the appeal of an unfinished version of the game be? I think where the interest for this version comes from is the mystery surrounding it. Outside of what you could see at a trade show, screenshots and other forms of media would make their rounds online, showing either different ideas they had, or some sort of still image to something that we would otherwise have no video footage of. This could be something that was taken from a gaming news company like IGN, or it could have been found years later, lurking inside the final game's files. That's where a lot of the stuff you could find online now would come from, such as unused 3D models, for example. Some of these subjects would gather cult followings, such as this short video of Luigi looking depressed that would come from Luigi's Mansion's E3 2001 trailer. Many people would take a little animatic that's only really meant for the trailer and spread rumors about it, claiming it's something like an unused game over screen, given that there would be both a similar looking unused picture of Luigi, as well as an unused animation for being poisoned, both featuring Luigi's sunken-in look. I even covered this back in the original video from 2013, but something I didn't cover correctly was a quote-unquote Safari Hunter ghost. There was a claim that within the Safari Room, there lies a special Safari Hunter ghost, where if you would cross his path, he would attack and wind up mounting Luigi's head on the wall. I even included an image to show what this ghost could have looked like. In all reality, it was just some wordplay from an issue of Nintendo Power, not meant to be taken literally. And I just slapped a fan-made image in there and called it a day. So, sorry for helping spread false rumors online. Now I mentioned there was creativity within this world of beta versions of games, and it doesn't just pertain to Luigi's Mansion. While this beta mania, as I'll call it, mainly pertains to Nintendo titles, there's much more going on than just a depressed Luigi and a fictitious Safari ghost. In fact, it actually sparked a new genre of entertainment, delving a little more into the horror genre. And it all starts with one game: Super Mario 64. The actual beta version of Mario 64 is like most other earlier versions of games, where it looks similar to what we received, aside from some obvious changes. There would be groups of people who would modify the game to try and restore as much of the earlier build as they possibly could, though even after these mods would be complete, fans wanted more from this era of Mario 64. That's where B3313 comes in. B3313 is a mod that takes the beta version of the game and turns a normally short experience into a huge maze with a story and different endings. It originally stemmed from a 2020 phenomena where fans would post theories about Mario 64 and compile them into one giant iceberg of stuff, ranging from something that you might have possibly heard about, all the way to stuff that only very few people will know. One of these theories is known as the Wario apparition, a floating talking Wario head inside the hall leading to the level Dire Dire Docks. In reality, this was just something to keep the audience entertained before Nintendo showed off their console, the Nintendo 64, at E3 1996. This was followed by the phrase, "Every copy of Mario 64 is personalized." People would upload videos to YouTube elaborating on these rumors, originally to show the Wario apparition in action, and much later as a maze of different versions of the inside of Princess Peach's castle, a la B3313. Going through different spots you normally wouldn't think twice about, people could get lost in the labyrinth of mazes in this mod. That is, if you forgot the way you came. It's also akin to the popular internet story of the never-ending maze of rooms, known as the Backrooms. All of these ideas would connect to make this huge experience, which would also keep the aesthetic of the original beta version of the game. So why am I mentioning all this? Well, I believe the reason why there are so many people talking about unfinished games is because it's something different to do in games they already enjoy. This would be supported by the large following of fan videos and mods that expand these worlds, such as B3313 and others. While you can play the original final version of Super Mario 64, some people may have very fond memories of the game from childhood, and in a way, this method of extending a game's contents is similar to extending one's childhood. That, or it could just be that people may think it's a cool, fun, and fresh idea to breathe new life into these classics. As far as fan-made extra content goes, there is unlimited potential to what someone can do to create a new experience. Though some may just want to play these earlier versions of games that the actual creators made. I mentioned previously that some groups of people would do as much as they can to recreate an earlier build of a game. There could be various projects over the years that try to get every detail down, from researching through sound libraries to find the correct sound effects used in these versions seen at trade shows, to painstakingly watching through blurry footage, trying to get everything down to a T as much as they could. But all these restoration mods have one thing in common. Unless it's a temporary public release, most of the time, you can't play a beta. Since they're unfinished, most companies won't publicly distribute an earlier version of their game for various reasons. Even if it may look cool and different, they may not feel the need to release a short game, most likely with no real goal or objective. That won't stop people from trying though. So many users online will desire to play these versions because it's outside of the normal experience you can get today. But what happens when you can play it? And yes, I'm gonna be using Luigi's Mansion as an example again. I promise I play other games. As it happens, a beta restoration mod was started time after time for LM. but one finally managed to completely come to fruition. This mod by PortableProductions would wind up being pretty much exactly like the demo you'd see at E3 2001. All the years of mystery and wonder, as though something new would be waiting that we haven't seen, became available to play. So when it came time to try it out, it was over. Of course you'd end up going through different rooms, and after clearing each one of them, there wouldn't be anything left to do. You could just sit around and wait for the timer to run out. This has been my thought process over time with Luigi's Mansion's beta. I thought it was cool, continued to want more and more of it, and by the time I got it, I was happy, but kinda disappointed. Don't get me wrong, so much work was put into this to be able to finally try it out. Even though I already knew what was going to come from this restoration mod, the part of my mind that likes to imagine what if was still holding out hope for something more. But really, I think that may just be the reality of finally receiving the thing I wanted all along, winding up disenchanted by the true beta experience. Maybe there's a sort of burnout as well after all this time. I will say, I still think some of the other earlier versions of games are kind of interesting, such as the original idea for Conker when it was a happy, kid-friendly game, before he took a complete 180 with booze, boobs, and a singing pile of shit. While it's fine to be interested with something like this, I think the thing I've learned after all this time was not to expect too much from these earlier ideas. But I also feel that the fan mods and YouTube videos, especially when done right, help breathe life into these games that would otherwise be glossed over. Yes, while I do play other games that aren't just these, I do find it intriguing that this creative content can help bring about a new experience into already familiar territory, and watching or playing it may help you feel that excitement of playing the game for the first time, like you did when you were younger. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, share your thoughts in the comments below. But with that being said, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care and peace.